Welcome to this month's special guest interview.
This month, I'm very pleased to have Helen Saul Case as my special expert guest. Helen Saul Case is the author of The Vitamin Cure for Women's Health Problems, Vitamins and Pregnancy, The Real Story, Orthomolecular Nutrition for Everyone, and co-author of Vegetable Juicing for Everyone. She is also featured in the 2016 documentary called That Vitamin Movie. After graduating magna cum laude from Colgate University, Mrs. Case earned a master's degree in education from the State University of New York. She taught English for 9 years, is a certified administrator, and worked as English department chair for 4 years. Helen is assistant editor for the peer-reviewed Orthomolecular Medicine News Service and has published in the Journal of Orthomolecular Medicine. She has written numerous articles on nutrition, which have appeared in health magazines in several countries and have been featured on many health advocacy websites. Her papers also appear in the Orthomolecular Treatment of Chronic Disease and the Vitamin Cure for Infant and Toddler Health Problems. Good morning, Helen, and welcome to this month's edition of Sports Nutrition Update.
Good morning. I'm so glad to be here.
I really enjoy watching you and the videos, and of course that vitamin movie was exceptional. Perhaps you can help everyone listening to understand what the term orthomolecular nutrition really means.
Ortho, by definition, means right. So two-time Nobel Prize winner Linus Pauling, he came up with this name orthomolecular to describe the right molecules to heal the body and to keep it healthy in the first place. So orthomolecular medicine is nutritional medicine. It's the practice of using nutrients that are normal and familiar to the body to prevent and cure disease. So it's not particularly complex. Basically, this means that we should eat right and take our vitamins. This will vary from person to person. This is the concept of biochemical individuality. So for some folks, a certain amount of a nutrient will be great on one day. For another person, it could be different. And that same person could have different needs from day to day. I love this quote by Dr. Abram Hoffer, who was a pioneer in discovering niacin and treatment for schizophrenia and also lowering cholesterol. And he said that anyone who wishes to become familiar with orthomolecular medicine may do so by simply beginning with a whole foods, sugar-free diet and a few vitamins. Anyone can do this. You know, we all depend on nutrients to survive, but we depend on getting the right amount of these nutrients to be healthy. So sure, orthomolecular is a pretty fancy word, but you don't really need to use the word. The goal is to do the word. And the best part about nutritional therapy and using vitamins to get better, using nutrients to feel better and to prevent and cure disease is that it's very, very safe. There's a very large margin for error and therefore a very large margin for safety. And we simply cannot say this about drug therapy. Dr. Hoffler also said that drugs make a well person sick. How can they make a sick person well? It doesn't make a lot of sense, and folks are beginning to figure this out. People are going to their doctors, they're getting drug after drug, they're not feeling better. Rates of chronic disease are not going down, but there is a way out. It takes responsibility, it takes effort, but anyone can get started today doing just a few simple things to help feel better in the future.
Well, my goodness, I feel like I've opened an enormous well of insight and knowledge. That was fantastic. I actually apprenticed with Dr. Hoffer for 3 years in Victoria, and I know him very well and his ideas and thoughts, and of course, Pauling as well. So I'm right on the same page, and so are students, because they learn about their principles and theories, etc. Now, what do you say to this person? I get everything I need from my diet, and I don't need any vitamin supplements.
Well, great. That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear it. That may be true for that individual. But if you have another individual who's very sick or very stressed, whose immune system is not handling the day-to-day things that it has to face, that person is going to need more nutrients if that person wants to feel better. So someone might get by on the RDA amounts of vitamins. It's true, it can happen. But for others, that won't be the case. And orthomolecular physicians have known for decades that when it comes to treating disease, not just maintaining good health, but treating disease, that a small dose of a nutrient is an ineffective dose. And these therapeutic doses that we're talking about, they're much larger than the RDA. So to the individual that can do it, that's wonderful. But for the rest of us that may need a little nutritional help, that's where orthomolecular comes in.
Your conviction towards this idea, philosophy, these principles, they're obvious. You're very firm in your conviction. Now, that must be associated with some experience that you've had, because such a conviction is not common in mainstream. Most people don't have this incredible discipline and focus and devotion on nutrition and using supplements to heal. So was there something that happened in your personal life that sold you on the power of nutrition and taking dietary supplements?
Absolutely. You know, the truth is I was born and raised on this stuff. My father, Andrew W. Saul, he discovered that, Dr. Robert F. Cathcart, the doctor that observed that bowel tolerance levels of vitamin C could resolve sickness more quickly, that came in handy when I was 4. And I started coughing, would not stop, and my folks were about ready to take me to the doctor. And my dad said, you know what, I'm going to try this. I'm going to do what Dr. Cathcart recommended. I'm going to get my daughter to bowel tolerance. And that was my first experience at age 4 of using high dose nutrition to feel better. And you know what? When that cough stops and the family was able to sleep, all of a sudden eyes opened and there was an aha moment. Now, my entire life, once again, raised with this stuff. It didn't stop at age 4. We had a big backyard garden. I was farming out there and my arms would literally turn green. And then the worst part, then we actually had to eat the stuff and take all those vitamins and drink all that fresh, raw, homemade vegetable juice. I really thought my parents were nuts. And I think some of my friends thought they were nuts too. So when I went to college and thought I knew better, I went away from everything that I had been raised with. And I got sick. Imagine that. And I went to the doctor, as everyone does, and I was given medications, as most people receive when they go to the doctor, since 70% to 80% of the time, that's what happens in the doctor's office. It's pharmaceutical-based, it's drug-based therapy that's offered. So I, like everyone else, took the drugs, and then year after year of feeling bad and not solving my feminine health issues, I realized that I needed to go back to what I knew. And what I knew was that vitamins and nutrition prevent and cure disease and that I could feel better. So I called my dad and I said, Dad, go ahead. Buy me that juicer that you were going to buy me for the holidays. I give in. And you know what? That juicer still sits on my counter to this day. I just juiced with it this morning for myself, my husband, and my 2 children who are 6 and 4. And this way of living, not only was it how I was raised, what I came back to, but it's also what our family does right now to stay healthy every single day. We use high-dose vitamin C, for example, when there's an issue that requires an antibiotic or an antiviral or an antihistamine, we take vitamin C instead. We go to the doctor, we get a diagnosis, and then we go home and do what we know to do. I also can say that this has been my experience through 2 healthy orthomolecular pregnancies. And once again, uncomplicated. My doctor was so happy. He said, Helen, you're making my job easy. Well, that's good. And he had my full list of vitamins. He knew what I was taking and it was all good. So the point is this, sure, go to the doctor if you need to. Absolutely. But wouldn't it be nice not to need to go? As you said in my introduction, I am an educator. I'm into education, not medication. I never took a single antibiotic until I went to college because my folks use vitamins and nutrition instead. Everyone gets sick, but how we get better differs, and how often we get sick will differ. So I'm not a doctor, but I don't believe that you must be a doctor in order to help yourself.
Well said. Love it, love it, love it. Now let's explore that psychology that you experience where you turn away, because I've got 3 adult kids. They're all in their 30s and they've got kids and they all did the same thing, because I raised them on the same principles as your father, the same ones that I knew, the role modeling, the living it, the doing it, and yet they turn away. Now, would you say that's primarily caused by being influenced from the outside world and your friends? Or what was going on in your head that made you refute and turn away from everything that you had been taught?
I guess it's one of those things when you feel like you're being raised in what felt like a bubble, right? I mean, when none of your friends are doing it, when none of their parents are doing it, when none of your parents' friends are doing it, when the family looks at you and, is irritated that, why aren't you feeding your kids more sugar? You get so much pushback in so many areas. Sometimes, you start to feel like, maybe I missed the boat here. Maybe my folks weren't right. And that's what I thought when I went to college and turned away. Now, I came back, and I think, frankly, that many people come back out of desperation. When you don't feel well and you're constantly sick and the drugs don't work, what do you do? So unfortunately, I think it's common for people to walk away from what works, but it's also common for folks, I think, to return to those things that they know to be true. So I guess that's my answer to that.
Right on. That's a good one. Now, what about nature's laws and nature being a dictator and the necessity to understand these laws, these health laws? What are some of the health laws that you believe that are supreme or essential to understand to the average person?
My health laws, I suppose, are pretty simple. They're pretty basic. And it's doing what we know to be right. You're not going to see a single advertisement on TV to eat broccoli and eat spinach and eat your greens. It's always for something else, for processed foods, for eating out. You're inundated with drug commercials. So my health laws start with, first of all, health first, family second, job and everything else is third. Those are our family hierarchy of priorities. That's what we still observe today. And health first means, well, what do? You drink plenty of water. You make sure you exercise. You take your vitamins and minerals. We drink fresh raw veggie juice. We show the kids how to do it. We have a low meat diet. We eat organic whenever possible. It's plant-based. Most of our diet is made up of fruits and vegetables. Low sugar. Practicing that stress reduction, getting lots of sleep, probiotics, gosh, I could go on and on. But all of these things make up our health laws within our family, and we do our best to follow them. And yeah, you know what? It is a lot, but I would so much rather spend my time and my money on feeling good, because if you don't spend it on feeling good, you most assuredly will spend it on sickness. And that is just not a way to live, in my opinion.
How do you protect yourself from everyone around you, in the sense where you probably feel at times, at least I do, and others like me have said this, they feel isolated in their commitment to this philosophy of living because it's so unlike the mainstream? What do you do yourself? Do you not associate with other people that aren't into it, or you just have a certain consciousness that protects you from crossing the line that people maybe are encouraging you to do?
Sure. I've got a lot of experience with this because it was, as I said, something that I grew up with. And I watched my folks, for example. I watched them manage and negotiate with their parents. And I remember my father's mom saying to my father, well, I just don't know what to feed you people. We were raised vegetarian, lacto-ovo vegetarian, so we enjoyed dairy and eggs as well. She was very, very frustrated with this. And for people that, have a meat-based diet, that can be frustrating, I'm sure, to have the vegetarian family come on over. So what did we do? My dad would say, well, don't worry about it, Mom. We'll just eat everything else you put out. With our kids, for example, there's a lot of pushback with, grandparents. Oh, we want to give them sugar. We want to do this. It can cause real issues. So what do? Well, first of all, my husband and I get together and we have a little talk before mealtime. We say, okay, this is what I saw in the kitchen. This is what they're planning to eat. What would we like the kids to have? What would we like the kids not to have? And we make a decision ahead of time. And then instead of walking in the room and saying they're not allowed to eat ham, we say, we would prefer it if the kids would have the potatoes and the vegetables and the cheese for dinner. So we try to set it up to work. When we go to visit our family, we bring food with us. We say, here, this is the lunch for the kids, so they don't even have to worry about it. We make it as easy as possible for others to be able to follow our wishes. But, I'd be lying if I said it was easy. It's not. It's a challenge. We work at it every single day. It's tough to go up against the mainstream views. It's tough to make any of those kinds of decisions, especially with your children, and say, oh, no, please don't give them any ice cream. Man, that's a tough one. We just went through that battle a couple of weeks ago. I also want to say this too, that, the number one rule about eating right is, well, you can't, like, at least not all the time. I believe that there has to be some room for movement in there. And for instance, with our kids, we'll make homemade pizzas. We will sometimes go out for ice cream in the summertime. And it doesn't mean it's good for us, but we try to balance our healthy habits with the occasional treat. So frankly, we don't go crazy.
Yeah, it sounds like a great position, a practical position. It's not extreme, and yet your values are still cemented and quite clear. That's great. That's wonderful. What are some of your favorite vitamin supplements that you won't leave home without?
I like all of them, but they're all important. There's no one pill solution to anything, and there's no one vitamin that's the most important. But if I had to pick, I would say top of my list, my favorite vitamins, vitamin C. We literally do not leave home without it, just as you said. I will actually ship it in advance to places we are going to be. I did that once a couple years ago when we took the kids down to Florida. I sent the vitamin C to the family's house, ahead of time, just so I didn't have to pack it. We carry vitamin C in our purses, in our gym bag. We carry it in the diaper bag. We have it in our pockets if we need to. Vitamin C is our constant companion. It's a wonderful vitamin, and hopefully we get a chance to talk more about it. I also very, very much enjoy the B vitamins, and these are huge for folks. I mean, if you have any sort of mood disorder or anxiety or depression, B vitamins are going to be extremely helpful for you. I especially like niacin, as Dr. Hoffer can teach us about, and vitamin B6. Magnesium, a mineral. Dr. Carolyn Dean would tell you that everyone could stand to have a little more magnesium in their diet. In fact, probably a lot more. Everyone could use extra. We love magnesium around here. In fact, one of the cheapest and easiest ways to get magnesium, if you have those sore, aching muscles and you get leg cramps, you have anxiety, these kinds of things. Oh, headaches. Gosh, magnesium is great for headaches. We take Epsom salt baths at least twice a week. We throw a little Epsom salt in there for the kids too. And Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate, and you can absorb it transdermally. That is, right through the skin. So it's a great way to get magnesium, and it's inexpensive. So that's high on my list. So if everyone were to learn about vitamin C, the B vitamins, and magnesium, I think we'd be doing a wonderful, wonderful job. Oh, and get outside, get some sun, get some vitamin D. I could go on, but I'll stop there because that's certainly several. And I want to say this too. I don't make a dime if you choose to go out and buy these vitamins. Frankly, I think that's good news for you. I'm particularly wary of folks that, recommend supplements and they just happen to sell what you need, and I'm not saying that doesn't mean their advice isn't sound or their research isn't legitimate, but me personally, I don't make a dime. I think that everyone should look into this for themselves. They should choose vitamins that are free of artificial sweeteners and artificial colors and artificial flavors. And if you have a question about your supplement, call the company. I do. If I have questions, is this vitamin from a genetically modified source? If I was going to take lecithin, for example, I buy GMO-free lecithin. I call the company and I ask. I read and compare lots of labels and I choose the best possible and, here's the key word, affordable option that gets results for my family. So that's my thought on favorite vitamins.
What about oils and oil nutrition, things like flax or hemp or extra virgin olive oil or coconut oil? Do you use any of those as staple oils?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've got coconut oil and we use olive oil, and all those healthy fats are a big part of our diet as well.
Okay, now let's get to some of the content that relates to your books, because you have a lot, and I recommend to everyone listening that you look at those books and make them part of your library. They appear to be loaded with an immense amount of useful information. So let's talk about one of the questions that I sort of pulled from looking at the outline of the books. When it comes to supplements and pregnant women, of course, most doctors are super ultra conservative and even warn pregnant women about not taking too many vitamins. What is your position on this, the fact that you are a mother and you've been pregnant twice?
Absolutely. You said it exactly right. Most women are discouraged from taking high dose nutrients during a pregnancy, but optimal doses are simply not present in your prenatal. And in my book, Vitamins in Pregnancy, I get into this a great deal, talking about each and every vitamin and the research behind it. Once again, you're not taking my word for it. There's many, many, many references to back up where this information comes from. So we have these vitamins and they're given out, these standard prenatals, but some women need more of certain nutrients. And if there are health problems present in pregnancy, it's even more important that you get optimal doses. You know, we said before that low doses are ineffective doses. I love how my father would say this, you know, you can't buy a yacht for $1.98. So if you want to be well and you want to have a trouble-free pregnancy, optimal nutrients are key. And, you know, let's talk a couple of problems. Let's say we have a situation where someone's experiencing morning sickness. The RDA of B6 is not going to cut it. 30 to 100 milligrams a day may be what a woman needs to feel better. Now, if you try to get 100 milligrams from food, you're going to be eating like 15 cans of chickpeas, like garbanzo beans. And, you know, that just doesn't make any sense, certainly not smart. So therapeutic doses are going to be higher and supplements are really going to be a lot easier and more tolerable. And they're certainly not that expensive. I also wanted to mention, too, that women sometimes get prenatal vitamins that actually make them feel sick. For example, iron in the form of ferrous sulfate, which is often present in prenatal vitamins, it's a kind of iron that actually makes you feel nauseated. So if you are having morning sickness and you do take a prenatal, I would check that label and then seek out a prenatal that does not contain that particular form of iron. Certainly iron's important, but let's find one that doesn't make us yap. For women who have mood disorders, you know, we were talking about Dr. Abram Hoffer. If we've got a woman who's on an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety medication, Dr. Hoffer would treat these kinds of disorders, even in pregnant women, with high-dose niacin therapy. And this, once again, is talked about in my book, Vitamins in Pregnancy, The Real Story. And when you hear Dr. Hoffer say, you know, niacin's not as safe as water, but almost, and then you hear about the side effects and the birth defects and the problems that could be caused by those antidepressants and those anti-anxiety medications. You know, I would much rather take a safe and effective vitamin than risk birth defects with drug therapy. So there's two examples, and I'll give you one more just because it's so very important. Vitamin C. Dr. Frederick R. Klenner gave his mommies to be 4,000 milligrams of vitamin C during their first trimester, and that's per day, 6,000 milligrams per day during their second, and 10 to 15,000 milligrams of vitamin C during their third trimester. And you know what he found? He had happy, healthy babies and happy, healthy moms. Not only that, if you happen to be one of those people that, you know, doesn't want to get stretch marks, well, guess what? Vitamin C is needed to make collagen and that strong connective tissue. So if you want to avoid stretch marks, taking vitamin C is a great idea. Now, I don't mean to brag, but I've had 2 kids and I do not have a single stretch mark. My mother, who also took high-dose vitamin C, has a single half-inch stretch mark, and that's it. And both of us followed Dr. Klenner's protocol. And, you know, if you're wondering, well, geez, you know, Helen, those are really high doses of C. You know, why would you need to take that much? Well, let's just ponder the entire animal kingdom for just a moment, because pound for pound, animals make inside their body or consume oodles more vitamin C than the RDA would have us believe that we need. So, you know, pound for pound human equivalent, we're talking 2 to 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C daily. Now, the RDA for a pregnant woman is 80 to 85 milligrams of vitamin C. So my dad always says this, and I repeat him, you know, who got it wrong? I think that high-dose C, which is so safe and so effective and so much more important, too, if you experience any sort of illness in pregnancy, because it can be used safely and effectively in high doses as an antibiotic and antiviral. And this, by the way, I have personal experience with. I got a cold during my second pregnancy, and I used high-dose C instead of drugs to get better. All of these things are good. So in pregnancy, I strongly believe, and orthomolecular physicians do as well, that abundance is a good thing. The body cannot absorb what is not there. The baby cannot absorb what is not there. It is deficiency that is a problem. And in the words of, you know, Roger J. Williams, and he was the discoverer of pantothenic acid, which is B5, he would have you invest in what is called nutritional insurance. And that's exactly what I did during my pregnancy. And you can read all about it, personal stories and all, with tons of research to back up the vitamin recommendations included in Vitamins in Pregnancy, The Real Story.
Right on. Great insight, by the way. I noticed you have an online course on your website called Women, Health, and Vitamins. Can you please tell us about that?
Absolutely. This is a course that ran, I believe it was last year. And what it is it took my first book, The Vitamin Cure for Women's Health Problems, and it tried to break it down into video format. Now, certainly you can't cover every word, and the book is a valuable supplement for those people that, would want to have even more information. But the Women's Health course went into all sorts of issues like PMS and yeast infections, bacterial vaginosis, migraines, trouble that women have with taking the birth control pill, urinary tract infections, how to get to saturation of C. I keep talking about that. Well, how do you do it? We talk about endometriosis, menopause. Are all these supplements safe? Well, which ones do I take? So on and so forth. And this course just talked about these topics and more. Now, the plan is to have this run a little bit later in 2017, in fall of 2017, and that is what's included, and I imagine that we'll be including even more since it'll be the second time we've run it. But folks that are interested right now in knowing those things and how to manage those things nutritionally, that you can always check out my first book, The Vitamin Cure for Women's Health Problems.
Right. And so how does it work? You go online, you sign up, and then is there a timeline? Is it left to self-pacing? How does it work in terms of completing? Is there a certificate, things like that?
Oh, great question. To find out more, you go to my website, which is helensaulcase.com. And you can enter your email address, and that'll put you on my mailing list. And that way I can keep in touch about when it's going to happen. Generally, the way that these, summits have been set up is that all the content will often be, if it's in the form of a summit, sometimes the content is actually for free and you can watch it at a certain time and a certain day. Other times they're set up where you pay a nominal fee and you get all of the content that you can access at any time. So it depends how they choose to set up the course, but certainly that information would be included with those emails, and you can sign up, as I said, on my website for more updates.
Okay, so your website, again, helensaulcase.com. Is that where we go to order your books?
Yes, there is a page with all of my books listed. If you click on them, however, it'll take you right to Amazon.com. So if you are interested in purchasing my books, you can certainly do so at any of the large online retailers. And also, I want to mention, too, that if you want a bunch of free information and you'd prefer it, you can go to my Facebook page. You can search under my name, once again, Helen Saul Case, and I'm constantly posting free articles that are written and reviewed by the Orthomolecular Medicine News Service. Now, if this is something that sounds interesting to you, I'm excited that it does, because the Orthomolecular Medicine News Service consists of about 30 physicians that from around the world that have come together, and when they see something in the news perhaps that makes them want to respond, they write an article, and then that gets shared with the subscription list. So if you go to orthomolecular.org and you see a section in the middle of the page where you can sign up for the news releases, click that, enter your email. You can get the free newsletters there through your email, but you can also get them on my Facebook page because I post them, as they come out. And that's a wonderful way to get lots of free information. Don't have to spend a dime. And for folks just getting started, that's the way I would do it, to learn a little bit more and then see if this kind of thing works for you.
Well, that's amazing. I can't believe our time is gone. The 30 minutes just went poof. I barely even tapped into the potential that you have to offer. So we would like to bring you back. But the idea here is to let our people get a feel for who you are and what you represent. And I would say that you are a tremendous ambassador for orthomolecular nutrition, worldwide. It's marvelous to see someone like yourself who's kind of like a product of education, and then you're now educating, but you do it in a way that is palatable, that's acceptable, that doesn't cross too many lines. So really want to commend you on what you're doing, Helen, and for everything that you're going to do in the future. It's marvelous.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your kind words. It means very, very much to me. And I'm so excited about this information. I'm passionate about it. And I really, truly believe if there's anything that we can do on this planet, it's to try to reduce needless suffering. Life's hard enough as it is. There's enough that we have to deal with. For goodness sakes, let's make our health something that's doable that makes us happy, that makes us feel fulfilled. And so thank you so very much for letting me be here today. And I very much look forward to coming back and speaking to you again.
Helen Saul Case is the author of several books. She is featured in the documentary movie, That Vitamin Movie. She's an educator and a great teacher and incredibly committed to the discipline of health and wellness. Helen, we thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed the topics discussed and our special guest interview on this edition of Sports Nutrition Update. SNU is produced monthly and is distributed internationally by the Corey Holly Institute. To learn how you can subscribe to this unique and motivational audio program, please visit CoreyHolly.com.
Representing lifestyle, new way of life. Listen, it's SNU, sing along, it's true. Yo, coming through straight. Malik with Sports Nutrition Update. Prolong your life, live long, stay strong, for it won't be long till your time is gone. So I sing this song to pass on wisdom. Hit us up at CoreyHolly.com. Love your life, live right, things will be alright. Knowledge is key, just follow our lead. You'll see a change in heart and health, which leads to wealth and higher self-esteem. Follow your dreams and see. Follow your dreams and see.